Okay, my name is Peter Chatterton. I'm working as a critical friend on the Jisc Curriculum Delivery program, and I'm working with four institutions in a camel group. Oxford University, Middlesex, Leicester, and the Open University. Three of the projects are actually kind of quite similar. I'll just give a little bit of overview of each one. The Open University one is actually really quite exciting for the Open University because the OU has a sort of, its background, its sort of model is very much sort of centred on learning materials. Originally it was all to do with very comprehensive, very detailed workbooks, and there was a certain amount of interaction, summer schools, personal tutors, etc. But what the OU project called Atelier is doing is to actually build a kind of a virtual design studio for students in design education programs. And it's actually trying to recreate what used to be called an atelier. It was a studio with the master craftsmen and their students where they could work together, learn together. The students could post up, put ideas, and talk their ideas through their peers and through with the master craftsmen. And the Atelier project is actually trying to recreate that online, and it's trying to do this by trying out a whole series of different learning techniques, things like using social networks, mind mapping, concept mapping, using collaborative tools, on real-time collaborative tools like Illuminate. So really quite exciting project, and I think one of the really interesting things, although it's very much focused on design education, I actually believe it has a lot of applicability to other programs, for instance STEM subjects, engineering, etc., all of which are involved with kind of design. I also think it has an awful lot of potential for use by businesses in the design world, in sectors like the fashion sector, science, technology, engineering kind of sectors. So actually quite a significant project. Almost in contrast to that, Middlesex University, their project was very much focused on design spaces for collaboration and creating sort of design spaces for what they call creative conversations for students. So it would be like students based around a table where they could collaborate together, perhaps even move around, build on each other's work. They would actually have an overhead projector pointing down and displaying images on the table, also having cameras above so they could capture what the creative conversations were, and students could reflect back on them at a later stage. So in actual fact, trying to do something very similar to the OU, which is about stimulating dialogue, getting a high degree of interaction and learning and peer learning between students, one doing it in a sort of face-to-face scenario, one doing it online. And I think what's interesting about working in camel groups that the projects can actually start to bring out what are common between sort of face-to-face and online scenarios, and what are different, and what are the kind of key differences and affordances between different media. Leicester's University's project, I think it's sort of similar in some ways to the OU's, in the sense that it was working in two particular schools to actually trial fairly simple technologies, and I think this is one of the sort of delights of Leicester's project, of using technologies like e-book readers and podcasting, which are actually kind of quite simple, but as the project team say, you know, we get our most bang for your buck here. You can actually have a significant effect on, significant impact on learning, but not a huge amount of investment in time and resource. So I think they were particularly looking at how you could introduce these to academics, and how they would be used in practice. And all the evidence that they were collecting has provided some very positive results. I also think that they were introducing some very good evaluation techniques which were not just about sort of students and staff filling in forms, but actually building sort of what were almost concepts or mind maps of them, of the evaluation feedback, and then feeding them back that to the person who's been interviewed to get sort of added interaction. And I think that kind of technique has an awful lot of mileage, and perhaps a lot of other projects could use that as a technique for evaluation and getting more effective evaluation. At the Oxford University, in some ways, was a little bit different to the other projects, but actually incredibly positive and a very, very kind of rewarding project. Their project was much more to do, perhaps looking at the sort of the efficiencies of the curriculum delivery process. So actually trying to introduce things like assignment submissions, introducing templates, Moodle templates, introducing generic materials across a whole range of subject areas across their continuing education department. And I think what was particularly interesting about Oxford University's project was that it was very much driven by their department strategic business plan, that it had to actually map right back to their strategy for quality, increasing quality, cost and meeting delivery requirements. A great project, and actually, you know, it's almost got some sustainability and embedding kind of built into it. So interesting projects, they've been great to work with, and I think they got an awful lot out of the CAMEL process of learning and critiquing and working with each other.